Hello and servus to Devtoberfest. My name is Marco Eidinger, and I'm very happy to showcase an example on how to elevate productivity with AI in mobile apps using SAP Build. SAP Build is part of the business technology platform, and there are multiple offerings. I'm part of the BTP SDK for iOS team that provides a set of frameworks and tools for mobile developers targeting Apple platforms. And it leverages SAP Mobile Services, a collection of microservices in the BTP to manage all aspects of the lifecycle of a mobile application. For today, I will show you how to create a mobile application with the BTP SDK for iOS. I will give a short introduction into Apple Intelligence. You will discover AI writing tools, a new reusable UI control provided and powered by the Fury for iOS design guidelines. And most importantly, I will show you how to integrate AI writing tools into a generated app. And this UI control, I show you how you can power it with help of the on-device foundation models provided by Apple, or how to use SAP AI Core and a hosted large language model there as a cloud service. So let's switch now let's switch to the assistant to generate our app. So I'm using version 25.8.1. You might use a newer version depending on when you're viewing this recording. I will create a new iOS application. I will use an account that I have access to, but you can use a trial account. I will provide some information. We will use SAP's Identity and Access service for authentication. And now let's choose an OData service that we want to use, representing an enterprise procurement model. And we would like to be able to run this app offline. And let's now create the SAP Mobile Service application. Once this is done, we can continue. So let's wait for a bit. Okay, the app definition was created in mobile services. Now we can create the product name used in Xcode. We will not use MacCatalyst. Everything what you will see, you can use in the iOS simulator, assuming you have macOS 26 and the latest Xcode 26 installed. We'll also create proxy classes for that. We won't create widgets. That's not needed. But yeah, let's create a project. So I will have to now switch to Xcode. So this is the generated Xcode project. Let's do some changes to it because let's change the deployment target to iOS 26, makes it easier to use the foundation models provided by Apple. And we will also add 2 packages to the project. One is, let's come up. So one is a package that I have developed outside of the scope of this session. It provides the possibility to talk to SAP AI Core and a hosted large language model there. And it's using the orchestration V2 API for that. If you're interested to learn more about that, maybe leave a comment in the on YouTube. But for demo purposes, to keep it short and simple, I will just I use the implementation that I did, and I will add the library to my target. And I will also add another Swift package, the Fury, the open source project containing Fury Swift UI, which has the actual AI writing tools component. I recommend that you pin it to a version, but I will use some functionality which is not yet tagged as a release. So I will use and check out the main branch. I will add the umbrella project Fury Swift UI, which allows me to use all three frameworks provided by this open source package. And I will add this now. And I think this is a good foundation for doing more development on that. But maybe before we go any further, let's talk about Apple Intelligence for a bit. And let me switch back to the presentation, okay? Apple Intelligence was introduced in 2024. It's available on new devices. I think iPhone 15 Pro and up. It's available in quite some regions, but not worldwide yet available. And Apple Intelligence powers certain tools provided by Apple. Apple has writing tools, which you can use in the Notes app, for example, but also in any other native build apps. The writing tools will be available through the context menu, and it will allow you to choose from various quick actions to proofread the text, to rewrite it, to shorten the text, or to specify whatever you want. So that's available automatically if you're using standard controls, either in UIKit or Swift UI. But also you can use this in custom views. There is an documentation explaining on how to do that. Also, you can customize it to a certain degree, but not fully. So, yeah, that is important later on. But the writing tools are powered by AI models on the device. And this year, 2025, Apple has made it possible for app developers to programmatically access those models through the Foundation Models framework. So let's explore this for a bit before we are going to the AI writing assistant. So for this, I will switch back to Xcode. So I created a new file, let's call it foundationmodels.swift, and I want to explore the foundation models. So therefore I'm importing it, and I'm leveraging playgrounds and the new playground macro to easily inspect the possibilities of foundation models. First, it's highly recommended to check the availability of it. The device might not be capable of using on-device models, or maybe Apple Intelligence was not yet enabled by the end user. The models might not have been fully downloaded. So it's good practice to check if they are available. It's important, or the cornerstone of foundation models is a language model session. You create an instance of that, and then this allows you to send prompts to the foundation models that will then be answered. In this case, I'm using here a non-streaming API to ask what is the capital of Germany, and as a response, I'm getting back a string. The capital of Germany is Berlin. That is correct. But it would be also good to have structured data. So for this, we can annotate a struct or enum with a new macro generable. So in this case here, we have a struct country with name and capital, and this should be sufficient enough to get a structured response back. So there is an additional parameter generating into the structure, and we can then hopefully see if the canvas is refreshing, that we are getting not back a string, but a struct with information. One word of caution: unfortunately, using that generable macro is not possible for proxy classes that the BTP SDK for iOS is generating for your OData services. Why? Those proxy classes are classes, and this macro can only be applied to structs and enums. So just to set expectation correct. So, and we should be able now to, it's crashing. I might do a mistake here, but okay, let's move on that. But you would see here that instead of a string, you are getting an instance of the country struct back with name Germany and capital Berlin. So this is how you're using foundation models in the most easiest form. If you are interested in learning more, I highly recommend this this code along session that was recently published by Apple. And now we can also finally see here that what I was expecting is true. But let's now look at the AI writing tools powered by the Fiori design language. I will switch back to the presentation. AI writing assistant from Fiori for iOS. It's part of the open source project on GitHub. And here's a short video that showcases the example app that is bundled within this open source project. And you can find that under core elements, there is a new control, AI writing assistant. It works on note form view and text field form view. And writing assistant will appear over the keyboard, and it will pop up the a sheet, which is fully configurable by you as the app developer. You can have nested menu options. You have an option of returning feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down, or you can use your custom views when you click on one of the menu actions. So why, or what's the value proposition of AI writing assistant? So you can use that on all devices, and you can leverage SAP AI Core to power the logic behind those actions. So you're not depending where Apple Intelligence requires you to have a certain device set and the user has to opt in into Apple Intelligence. With the AI writing assistant, you don't have these challenges. Also, and this is fully customizable and extendable. You can bring in any option that you want. And the idea is to accelerate the data input for end users. So now that we have seen that, let's try to integrate this into our generated application. So I'll switch back to Xcode now. So I have created here a new file, writing assistant example, and let's implement this. And I'll use a code snippet to save some time. What we want to do is we want to leverage this new control provided by Fiori Swift UI Core. So we are importing it. We also will use some icons. So let's import Fiori Theme Manager. We are creating a Swift UI view that takes a text and it will provide the option for consumers to get updates on text changes. In the body implementation of that view, we're using another reusable UI control from Fiori Swift UI Core, the node form view. We will pass the texts that we're receiving in. Most importantly, we are adding a new view modifier, the WA text input. WA stands for writing assistant. And in here, we provide an array of menus that should be displayed. So in this case, we created here some extensions on WA menu, where we have now multiple options to rewrite, make text shorter, longer, make a bullet list, or change tone and translate. So we see those here. They're pretty simple. You specify a title and an optional icon. You can have nested menus by providing children. So for example, the change tone as children of WA menu instances for professional, friendly, and so forth. Also, here for demonstration purposes, we have options to translate into multiple languages. Word of caution, if you are really interested in doing that, look into the translation framework provided by Apple. This is just here a quick and dirty example that some translation capabilities are possible with the foundation models, but that's not the recommended way. So that's the idea. Now we have a Swift UI view, and but once the user taps on an action, we currently don't have any logic. We delegating this call to an action handler, but it will just return the text. So we will implement this by leveraging an AI engine. So let's create that AI engine. And let's do this as an enum. We want to have two cases. One, we want to use Apple Foundation models, and then SAP AI Core. And we can for Apple Foundation models, we will check the system language model. Of course, we also have to import then the foundation models. And for SAP Core, we will always return true. And then we also have to implement the respond to function. The AI writing tools do not currently support streaming, so we will keep it simple. We will just call an async function once it returns the text will be presented and visualized by the AI writing tools. So I will continue with that implementation now. Let's also import the Swift package that we have added earlier. And let's replace the implementation with, for Apple Foundation models, we will simply instantiate a language model session, and we will use the non-streaming API to request a response for this prompt, and we will returning the string content, so unstructured data. And for SAP AI Core, I still have to do here some extensions to implement the to have a also non-streaming API. Per default, my Swift package takes a uses a streaming API for that and talks to a GPT-4 model hosted as a large language model in SAP AI Core. So that is how we can power the engine. And let's now also make use of that engine in here. Per default, let's start with Apple Foundation models. And we have now to implement the action handler. We will first check if the engine is available. And if so, then we will do catch block we will call the respond to function, and let's have also another extension on to get a prompt based on a menu action. So in most cases, it might be sufficient that we just click the action, the title of it, and say, okay, apply this to the input. But we can be here more precise, saying, please shorten the following text to a single sentence, or translate the following input into that language. We are looking here, any of the translate children. So would be here, translate the following input into German. Same thing for the tone. So I think that is already pretty helpful, but we also may want to have a visual verification which kind of engine we are using. So let's put this into a V stack. That we have a node form view cell, and let's have a text engine, and then we have the AI engine, and we take the raw value of it. And it bothers me that there's a spelling mistake, so we'll just do a quick refactor. Okay, and we should be ready to go if this would be a Swift UI application. But this generated application is mostly using UI kit and Fury controls implemented in UI kit. So we have to do some additional handling for this. And what does it mean is we want to use the Swift UI view as part of a table view. So what we will do is we will create a UI table view cell, which then we will use UI hosting controller to use our Swift UI view as the root view. So within our view controller logic, this cell, the function configure has to be called on it. We will create then the Swift UI view, add this as a root view to UI hosting controller using auto layout to lay out this view as a sub view to our parent view controller, and importantly, call layout if needed. So this will allow us to reuse the Swift UI view in one of the generated view controllers. Let's take the product detail view controller as an example. We have to register this table view cell. Let's do this and view did load. And let's do in the long description. So this view controller was generated based on metadata of our OData service. Here it has a product, and let's use what we had before if the product is just being viewed by the end user. But if the user wants to edit that product, then we will dequeue our writing assistant table view cell, call the configure function on it, and in the handler, in the completion handler, we are adding then the new value as the long description to our entity. So that should be sufficient to use that end to end. Let's double check. We have here as default the Apple Foundation models. So let me compile and start up and prepare the simulator. So for time purposes, I'm skipping the onboarding of the user, but an important note is to see the writing assistant option above the keyboard. It's important in the simulator that in the menu on top of your Mac, you select I/O, keyboard, and disconnect the hardware keyboard. So having said that, let's go into products, and we can see here everything is normal in the read-only mode. If we switch to edit, now we can see that we using a new cell, and we are using Apple Foundation models. If we are selecting this, we will see Writing Assistant as an option above the keyboard. By selecting it, let's do a rewrite, and Apple Foundation models will then respond. We can also make a bullet list. And maybe let's translate this into German. What I really like about the AI Writing Assistant is that you have the undo redo functionality, so you can switch between stages, you can try things out as an end user. But I don't want to take any values of it. So let's maybe discard this, cancel, and maybe let's try out SAP AI Core. Okay, so I'll do quickly the changes in Xcode to use the different engine, and then we continue in the simulator. Okay, so I quickly changed the engine in our Xcode project, and let's see, we go again to a product, and we can see here now that a different engine is used. And let's select this, and let's do a rewrite, and maybe let's translate this into German. And voila! Now we used SAP AI Core. You can also think of other use cases where you may want to use local data to enrich the AI Writing Assistant. But yeah, you have multiple options on how to use the AI Writing Assistant. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's go back to the presentation of what we learned today. So as a recap, we created an application with the BTP SDK Assistant for iOS. We learned a bit about Apple Intelligence, what are the most important APIs from the Foundation Models framework. You learned that the Fiori Swift UI open source project with its framework, Fiori Swift UI Core, has a reusable UI control, helping end users to quickly perform data input. And you learned how you can leverage the foundation models from Apple to power the AI writing assistant. Or you can use SAP AI Core or other ways. So I hope this session is really helpful. If you're interested in the code, let me know in the comments. I might provide a blog post with some code snippet and examples if there's enough interest. I hope you found this session helpful, and I wish you a lot of learning here at DevToberfest, and Servus.